Hey guys, this is Mercedes with Trim Podcast. Okay, Dill. Hey guys, this is Mercedes with Trim Podcast. I am also the co-founder of the Fellas Barbershop. I'm here today with one of my most favorite people, and luckily for me, I'm also related to this person. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself to you guys, and then we're going to kind of dive in and talk some good talk. So, here he is.
Awesome. Well, my name is Glen Reber. I'm Sadie's brother-in-law, and was born and raised in Vegas, and got a theater degree of all degrees. Was a teacher in a past life. Got a master's degree in business, and now I just live the good life in Cedar City, Utah, as a brand development manager for a local company called Go Green, and now am full-fledged Fellas Barbershop co-owner.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Glenn is our newest investor in our Cedar City location, and he's our only investor so far that isn't a barber. So this has been really fun and unique, and to be able to have family has been really awesome. Glenn, I want to talk about, so you have done a really great job at, getting all these degrees and going to school and making sure that you were extra educated on kind of well-versed everything, it sounds like. Why choose? I know you own like multiple like rentals, and you've invested and you've done all these other things. Why invest in a company that requires so much work, like investing in the Fellas, like a service industry business?
Well, I'm definitely not well educated in everything, but thank you. Just a couple of things, and so I would say first off, there's just a huge desire to partner with family. I think we both kind of shared that love of doing business with family, and I think you and I have both tried to make that happen for the family previous to this endeavor.
Yeah.
And I grew up hearing my dad talk about him and my aunt and his dad. There's only two siblings in them, and all the fun they had opening up the swap meet, even businesses that fail, the swap meet being one of them. It's like they just talk about how much fun they had even just trying that business.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I want those same stories. I want to go on these adventures with you guys, have these, some days are fights, some days are awesome, some days we're making money, some days you're grinding, but it's just, you're doing it with family.
Yeah.
And for me, there's just nothing better, and I think I've been trying to get some of that life that I grew up hearing about. Secondly, since living in Cedar City, I have felt like Cedar's going to be the perfect place for a business that gives back. We are more of a small town. I don't know how big Logan is, so I won't claim that we're the smallest town with the Fellas Barbershop, because I don't know their population. We're probably pretty close. But when you get to these smaller towns, the community really knows each other.
Yeah.
Everyone knows everyone. When there's dramatic things that happen to families or the communities, everyone shows up. And so you can't, and this is probably true, in businesses everywhere, but especially I feel like in my town, you can't just be a business. You have to show you're supporting everyone else, really, right? And your guys' mission speaks directly to that, of positively impacting people. But watching you guys do it in Spanish Fork was really like the head on the nail, or how that phrase goes, because I could just see all the events, the fiesta days, all of that kind of thing. I remember just early on watching you go and supporting small businesses, because that was super important to you, obviously, as a small business. You're like, you guys support me as a small business, but you didn't just say it, you did it. Like, we would go to these little events in Spanish Fork, and you're stopping and talking to every little booth, and usually buying something from every other booth. And I'm just like, okay, she's not just preaching it, you've got to live it, and she's really, that money is funneling back to her, funneling back to the community, charities for people who have had hardships, your guys' Veterans Day, just on and on. So I just know that, okay, Cedar City needs that same thing. Every community honestly needs that same thing, where businesses just aren't here for them, they're here for the people.
Yeah.
And so I just knew that would resonate with the town that I lived in, and wanting to be a part of it along with family. It was just kind of like the perfect combination.
So most people they went to barbershops as a kid, and that's where they kind of found like community, right? Like just as like a young boy or as like a man, like you go to a barbershop, like you see your bishop there, or you see like your council member or your neighbor or your mayor or whatever, but you didn't actually go to a barbershop as a
I
kid.
pretty much have probably never been to a barbershop until your barbershop. That's honestly probably true. So I was
Yeah.
a Supercuts kid.
Yeah.
And
Or your mom.
yes, the phrase was short boy haircut. Because at some point, first your mom tells them what kind of haircut to give you, but then
Yeah.
you get old enough and you're like, Mom, don't come up with me. I'm going to go get my haircut myself.
Yeah.
But it was still, okay, make sure you tell her I just want the good short boy haircut. That was all I knew. So then when you finally came into the family, probably even before you owned your first barbershop, it was like, you did my hair a few times. I think one of the first times was the wedding for your sister, and you did my hair, and I took a picture, and I still have that picture, and I'm still like, whoa, a haircut could be more than just my short boy haircut. That can actually look good and feel good, and I'm like, this is a boost I haven't felt before.
Yeah.
And then walking into your barbershops, and so now I understand this whole other side to haircuts that isn't just the standard walk in and hope something goes well.
Yeah, you're like, a short boy haircut,
yeah,
please.
Short boy? What does that mean now too? I don't know.
Yeah. So I love that you want to be involved in the community, and yet it ties so much directly with barbershops, because barbershops really is like the heart and soul of a community. It's like that's where everybody really does gather. At least that's where men gather, right?
Yeah.
Is there in the barbershop, and that's always been like a community driven place. And so where do you feel like you got the passion for community and giving back in your life, and it wasn't through that barbershop?
Yeah, luckily I have kind of always had a little bit of like that volunteer spirit in me. Part of it is probably being raised in the Boy Scouts. There's a lot of good mottos and things there that I think are all about giving back to people. And I'm also just an extrovert. So when I was going to college in Cedar City for my bachelor's degree, and my grades are good, and my classes are done, and my part-time job is going well, I would sit there and like Google things to do in Cedar City, ways to get involved. I want to get out of this house, this apartment. I want to do stuff with people. And one of the things that I did for half a year was volunteer for what was called Friends of Festival Country Canines, long name for a dog nonprofit organization.
In Vegas?
Yeah, in Cedar City.
In Cedar
City when I was doing that degree. And right away, just getting involved, showing up to the weekly volunteer meetings, and you soon realize how every volunteer organization needs more volunteers, and if you just dedicate yourself to a couple, like you're gonna get leaned on, and you'll be heavily used, because there's not a lot of people that will spend their Saturdays or their time helping something that needs to get done.
Yeah.
And so luckily it's just kind of something, Ben, that I always love. I think it's more mission driven when you're volunteering. It's more purposeful. It gives my life meaning. That's what I found. So I definitely love giving back and being a part of that. Also, I think because I know how much it's helped me. Like that's what saved me from boredom in my room sitting there in college. It's like, no, getting involved, getting active, you're going to learn. There's just so many benefits.
I feel like you're definitely like the black sheep in the family too. Like I don't think that like your parents are like big into like volunteering. Maybe your mom a little bit, but like I don't think I've ever had them be like, you guys, we're going to Guatemala, we're building homes, or like, hey, we're going to go do this, lots of volunteering. I love Nellie, God bless you, but like Nellie's not out volunteering. My husband Jeremy, like he's definitely like, I'm more like, we're going to do free shit for people. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, we're building stuff for people. Come on, let's go. So it is definitely like a black sheep, I would say, like that you have that. But it's so much how I feel, and it's so much how I've centered the fellows around. And so I really do feel like you're a perfect fit out of everyone in the family. Not that they're all not great fits, but I think that because that's a core value of yours is to give back, and it's something you thoroughly like love, enjoy, appreciate, and do. I think that makes it a really nice collaboration in business together, is that we really do care about the people that not only work for us, but that like support us and come in, and we want a place where we can like connect people, but also where we can help out our communities and like make sure that we're impacting them.
Well, and the missing connection, and what I have loved about the fellas, and what I'm loving educating people about is, you're completely right. The barbershop is that place for men for connection. And in some ways, it feels like it's become the opposite of that for some people. How many people do I hear that are like, I don't want to talk to anyone in the shop today.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to my person that cuts my hair. But that same person will go home to their spouse, their best friend, their father, their mother, and say, I wish I had more friends in my life.
Yeah.
I wish I had someone to talk to.
Yeah.
So somehow there's that disconnect where it's like, your barber could be one of those best people. They could be your best informant, confidant, best friend that knows everything, and yet we're going in and saying, I don't want to talk to you for this 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So there is a disconnect there, and I like educating people in that way too, and I think you've done a lot of that where, you know, when people talked about putting TV screens in your shops, and you're like, heck no. Yeah. There's no screens going in here. Like, we talk, we chat. We're a family in here. Yeah. You know, and so it's kind of been that re-education of we don't want it to be that. This is not come and be quiet. I'll yank some words out of you to know really how you're doing today. Yeah. And it requires a little bit of that, but people love it, and that's why people are flocking to it, because they need it.
It's so true. Glenn, I've actually officiated 2 weddings inside of this barbershop of clients of mine. Wow. Like, that's how close you become to your clients. And not just like where you don't do hair, but to like the people that are in your barbershop, you become so close to them. I think pretty much all of the guys that work for the fellows, they've all been a groomsman in someone's wedding. Right. And the girl, I've been invited to every one of my clients' wedding. Like, it's just like, you get so incredibly close to people. And I went to this class one time, and it really clicked for me because I had 5 sisters growing up, no brothers. Like, my dad like was just really like introverted. Like, he was like, too many girls, too much estrogen. Like, he would just like hide. So like anything like testosterone, like I didn't really like understand men or anything like that. But I went to this class, and it was a Maddie Conrad class. He's a really like a big educator in barbering, but he talked about how you don't know when that person that's sitting in your chair was like even last complimented. Like, when was the last time that somebody said something nice to that person in the chair, like, hey, you, or, you know, you look good, or when was the last time that they felt good about themselves, or when was the last time someone just uplifted them? I could use so many different terms, but really like just made that person feel good. And I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what, like, people compliment me like, oh, Sadie, did you just get your hair done? Or like, hey, Sadie, I like your nails. And like, hey, Sadie, like, I like your brows, or whatever. But then when I think about men, like, what do they go do? Like, what do they go do that they would get complimented? Like, men don't really compliment other people, and women don't usually just compliment like a random person, like, hey, you look really nice today, you know? Right. And so, like, being able to sit in my barber chair, for me, like, I'm going to make sure you look freaking awesome. Like, I always tell my clients, like, when you leave and you get lucky, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. Me. When you find your next wife, me, you're welcome. And so it's like, I really try to like hype them up, because I don't know when the last time they got a compliment was. I don't know when the last time like they felt good about like themselves or the way that they look. And I know that like everyone who comes in, they look good, then they leave and they're like, I just like feel so much better about myself. Like, I just feel like today's going to be a good day. And it's like, you know, when you wake up and you're like, your hair looks good and like your outfit looks good and you're like, I'm about to kill it today. Like, today's about to be my day. Right. And so that's what I really love about like the barbershop too, is like, it just, the confidence that it brings people and the way, so not only does it connect people, but the confidence it brings people. And like, even just you saying like, you know, when you finally came to a barbershop, you were like, whoa, like, not a short boy's haircut. Like, I actually get to have something that like frames me and like frames my face and like changes my hair. So
I mean, I kept that haircut for like 10 years until you convinced me to get rid of it, because you were sick of the same one. But I loved it because it was the first one where I felt I looked good and wasn't that. So I was like, 10 years is probably a long time for the same style of haircut. But I was like, I don't know anything else, and I know I look good now. So that definitely just speaks to the confidence that it gave me, for sure.
It's so true. Okay, so let's talk about family business. So you talked about how your aunt and your dad and your grandpa all shared a business. They had failures, they've had successes. We've only been in business for a couple months together, but like, what's your overall thoughts? Like, is it what you thought it would be? Is it like, what are your overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it has only been a couple of months, but I think we've already experienced some high highs and some low lows. Yeah. You know, I mean, we had a nice heated exchange. Some tears were shed. Yeah. And I feel like if anything that made us stronger,
For
I
sure.
feel like I love you more since that day. Like I feel like we could talk even more since that day, just
Yeah.
because I'm just like, no, we're solid. Like if we'll get through that day, we could probably get through some more stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also just like more excited for what the future holds. We obviously just very recently completed that meeting of all the owners, and that was really cool to feel even that community,
Yeah.
to feel that circle of people, which is different. I'm excited for the upcoming outings and the meetings and all those things that I'll get to see and learn. It's also really fun, like just watching you run things.
Oh, thanks.
It's like, and it's fun too having the master's of business degree, which I don't hold or use against anybody. I know that you'd love to talk about how you didn't come from a ton of education. You've just figured out as you've gone and been super successful at it. And that's what makes it fun too. The business analyst in me is always like case studying everything and seeing the things that are going really well for some businesses and things that are going really wrong for other businesses. And a lot of your instincts always work out. I know that you sit and make different calls every day, not knowing how they'll turn out, and they always turn out in your favor, and always turn out good. If they don't, you'll make them turn out in your favor.
I know.
So it's fun to watch you. It's fun to have extra reasons to call you guys, to interact with you guys, to see your kids. Any excuse to bring the family together is a good excuse for me.
Yeah.
And so
the cool part too is like not only are you brothers with one of the owners, but your sister actually works for the company too. So it's like you're full-fledged, like you're
Everyone's
both your
in on
siblings.
this.
So yeah, parents never, but yeah, your siblings for sure.
Different podcast.
Different, maybe another life. No, I do love that you do have all this education because, well, for one, with you being my brother, like I know you have my back and you're not, like you're always willing to be like, okay, so like, this is what I see and this is what I think could improve. Like you're always willing to give me like fearless feedback of like from a business side and from your educational side, where I feel like some people would maybe hold back because they're like, well, she's like the owner, she knows what she's doing. And it's not that I don't know what I'm doing, but I can always use advice, or like I could always be better. It's part of our core value, right? Grow or die. Like, and I always want to be growing.
Core value of keep it real helps it too. It's like, okay, I know that they're not going to mind, or that if they do mind, if I just remind everyone, hey, that we all agreed to keep it real, then we can plow right through and we can all say what we're thinking and we're feeling. But yeah, it's great to have, like you said, Nellie and the sister. And the thing is with the business, it usually feels like with businesses, a lot of people are trying to prove someone else wrong. You're trying to prove people that you could do it, that you could get there, and no one's usually on your side. I mean, you could speak to that better than the rest of us, but I'm sure many times it feels like I'm the only one that cares about this business. I got to trudge this hill alone. So to do that with family, which not all families have each other's back, but to feel like, they want me to succeed as well.
Yeah.
And it creates this synergy where we're not all on our own interest. We all want to see it succeed, each other succeed, the business succeed.
Yeah.
Makes it feel like the sky really becomes the limit, because you're not worried about what other people are saying, thinking, feeling, or in it for themselves. There's nothing weird like that. We're running. And we're running together as a family unit. Get out of the way, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, it's just so like how different all those partners were today. So today we met with all of our fellows partners, and we all got on the same page and talked about where the company's going. And so we're just leaving that meeting, coming to this podcast. But it's just in that room you have, Miko and Munson, who are all like high school rejects, and then you got like you, Jeremy, and Tasha, who's like all like college educated. So it's like half the room, like we've all done some like gel time, and then the other half's done a lot of college time. And that's like the board of like the fellas investors, which makes it awesome, because you got Koa, funny. Who's like, he's like, we'll just give him everything. And you're like, I want to see data. Data, show me data. Yeah, the numbers. And Koa's like, I don't care about the numbers. Just make sure everything's working, So it's just so fun to have like so many different types of personalities inside of this company, and like everybody brings such a different point of view to it. And like for me being the owner of the company, like I don't sit up front of everybody and think like I'm here to tell you everything and I know everything and this is the way it is. I'm like, okay, like let's all chat and talk and get on the same page and like what do you know that we could like, exercise or utilize inside of this or be able to do this. And it's probably been cool because I've been with your brother for 10 years, but I remember when me and Jemmy first got together, I had to like write a paper for something and you were like, Sadie, you're like, you need some commas and like, you need some exclamation points. So probably, yeah. And so 10 years later, you're probably like, all right, like, like maybe you're getting a little bit better. Yeah. I'm still not in data. Data's not my thing. I'm like, I don't know what those numbers mean. Like is people smiling? Like, that's what I need to know. Like, is people smiling and is there money coming into my account? Like, both. Right. As long as both's happening, I'm good,
Well, in that same way, too, seeing Jeremy kind of do similar growth in aspects of his personality over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I would have ever pictured him as, this leadership, telling people what to do, not... totally comfortable speaking in front of crowds and getting investors and whatever he's doing. That's just like, that's not the shy kid that I grew up with who, I just wouldn't have guessed seeing some of those things too from him either. So
I want to know what you thought Jeremy was going to be when he got older.
More jail time.
I think he did a weekend. So, like, you think like a month or like even more than a month?
I don't know. It depends on who he's hanging out with. Depends on the crowd.
Whatever way he got swayed.
Yeah, you must have steered him towards good thing you had your business to work on.
Even though I did more jail time than him.
I guess.
What about Nellie? Did you think that Nellie would end up in the fellas sitting in a finance seat?
I think overall my gut is less surprised about that one. I think Nellie has been used to playing maybe, or feels like she's played second fiddle to some of her older brothers. She's the youngest, so I'm sure the youngest in any family feels that way. So as soon as the brothers kind of step away and you give that person the chance to shine through and own something, like, of course she was going to do it. And I feel like everyone has always had this confidence in her and her abilities, had the ability to get good grades, had the ability to achieve well, outgoing. I mean, just a superstar in whatever she decides to really accomplish.
Yeah.
And I think that the family aspect, bringing that full circle, does something for her that no other job can really do, brings a fulfillment out of work and life that even though she could kick butt at any other job she wants to have, she wouldn't want that job for longer than 6 months. It's just like, it's not bringing this fulfillment, this passion, let her speak her truth. But that would be my hunch about it. And the fact that Nellie and I obviously grew up together, we have the same parents who are quizzing us on numbers and making sure we're doing good in our math grades. So the finance thing to me is also not super surprising. I'm like, she's going to be able to run through those left and right, and she can toss numbers. I mean, you talked about the owners meeting and someone said all those Reber siblings like their data. So it is true. Like we grew up with the same parents, so there's a reason we're all kind of similar. So I think Nellie is less surprising. And with Jeremy, it was just that personality shift, I think. I just always pegged him as so shy and so a little more introverted, but to see the whole family get to where we are and in the business being that connecting piece is just the coolest thing ever.
So what made you choose theater and then business? Like those just feel like
super dramatic. They are so torn. So I mean, taking it back in high school, I really at first didn't have any friends. It was the whole loner in high school situation, not to pity as me, but just not, I was not the outgoing person I am today. Luckily, my mother convinced me to try out for the High School Musical. I got the lead of the musical and did it every single year of my high school career. So that obviously gave me enough confidence to feel like it was something I could do. And that's what I tell people as to how I chose that degree is I probably could have been successful in a lot of different degrees, but I think when you're going in, you want to choose something that you think you'll be good at. You don't want to go in and get bad grades and spend all that money on a college degree to not do well. So it's like, oh, well, I almost already kind of have an okay singing voice. Let's keep doing that. finished, got that bachelor's degree, and then you just kind of have some choices to make in your life. Where do you want to move? What jobs do you want to have? A lot of good friends, very talented friends of mine, they moved to New York City. They're professional actors, singers, dancers. They're crushing it. I pretty quickly knew I wanted to settle down. I wanted to date. I wanted to get married. I wanted to do all of that. I went into a teaching career in Utah right after that, which I loved, despite all of the drama that comes with teaching.
Yeah.
And originally decided to get my master's because as a teacher, if you get a master's degree in anything, you make more money right away.
I didn't know that.
In anything. It's called a lane change. And so even if I went back and got a master's in music, I'd still make a few $1,000s more a year if I was teaching math. Most teachers don't make that big of a jump, but the point being, okay, if I want to keep being a teacher, any master's degree is good. Business, I grew up around it my whole life.
Right.
I think it will lead to more avenues. It could work for so many different types of businesses. Let's go back and do that and then see what happens after graduation.
Yeah.
So that's what led me kind of those 2 different degrees, and then after graduation, landing a business job, which is just kind of where I've stuck. But, and there's a lot of ways that still both those things pair together. I mean, you read a lot of case studies in business school about extroverted versus introverted, about, I think about all the ability to lead workshops, to public speaking, all those things that came from this degree in performing that are still totally enhancing my master's of business and my ability to do well in the business world today, not just because of the business degree.
Yeah. I want to for sure let our anyone who's like listening know a couple stories about you.
Oh boy.
First of all, tell us how old you are.
I'm 31.
Okay, tell us how many homes do you own?
How many homes do I own? I own only 2 homes. I own half, though, of 2 other homes with partners.
So 4 homes total?
So 4 homes total, but not 100% of all 4 homes.
I was thinking that you had a couple more rentals besides that.
Yeah, we sold one about a couple years ago now, probably. So we did have one more than that. But trying to shrink a little bit and trying to diversify a little bit.
Yeah. So 31.
31.
Why, I just gave you 2 years.
Yeah, goodness.
I'll be 31 this year too. Okay, so Glen's 31. He was literally a starving student, master's degree, a whole nother degree. How the freak do you end up with 4 homes?
Actually,
wait, tell me if this relates to you.
Okay, good.
Every time we go to open a shop, I tell Jeremy, I say, it's time to ramen noodle it.
It's time to ramen noodle it.
And that's when we know that, like, nobody's buying new shoes. Like, nobody's getting their nails done. Like, we are ramen noodling it. In that house, that means, like, probably different than you, because you're probably like, we're sharing ramen noodles. We're not eating half ramen. You're half ramen. And I'm like, I'm going to do a full ramen, but it's as, like, cheap as I got.
That's so funny.
So that's what we say.
There is definitely a difference apparently between frugal and cheap. And apparently I am cheap. At least that's what I've been told, which I think is the worst of the 2. So I think I've been told a little bit insults. But
insults.
But no, you're definitely correct. It is a pure hustle to not spend money is really what it is. I have never had a 6-figure income. I have never been gifted thousands upon thousands of dollars. I have hustled to save money, honestly, more than I have hustled to earn money.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to always be employed. I know how to do well in interviews and get a job. I've had a steady source of income. But it is what I have not spent money on, my ability to say no to things. I mean, someone asked me a similar question 6 months ago, and I said, you know what? To answer this question, I'll tell you that I don't remember the last time I bought myself a steak at a grocery store. A steak costs too much money.
Yeah.
All I know is the price of ground beef and chicken breast. I can quote those prices to you from Smith's or Walmart any day of the week.
Do you have like a spreadsheet of like, you know what you're going to spend every month and like...
Oh, yes. Yeah. Every transaction gets logged, budgeted for. I know where it's going, what I'm allowed to spend, what I can't spend. The only thing that I have ever splurged on, as anyone who knows me, is traveling. If I ever have saved up a little bit where
And
I'm
even
feeling
then, it was
really
probably
cushiony,
cheap as possible.
yeah, no, it was. It was, Google Flights. When is it cheap? Like, I can't just go on a
Off
flight.
season.
Right, yeah. You're freezing or burning in some part of the world because it's not like it's the touristy season. So, and that's really the grind that you have to do to do anything, and
I think it's just so impressive, like the fact that you own 4 homes, that you paid for all of your schooling, that you have all the schooling that you have, and you paid outright for this Cedar City shop. You paid for it. It was a business that you really didn't even want, and then we've turned it completely into a Fellas, and you paid all of that out. And you're 31 years old, and you probably still have a decent savings, so you're probably not willing to tell us, and that's fine. But I think it's just so important to like get the message across that like not all entrepreneurs got there from, like, yes, your family, you come from a family of business, but you didn't get to where you're at because your family in business. Like, your parents didn't pay for those 4 homes. Your parents didn't pay for your Fellas. Like, you literally probably once a week or once a month, you're sitting, like you said, logging every single transaction. I do not do that, by the way. Nellie does that for me.
Yo, you have someone.
She says, no, she's this one.
She says, you're on ramen for this day.
Yeah. She's like, ramen for like a whole week, though. Like, especially for opening another shop. Ramen, you need a hot, like, ramen for a second.
I do think a lot of people think that, wealth and investing, business opening is something so far away, so unattainable. And I agree. I think it's important to note that it's just a lot of discipline. And it's, again, I don't ever tell people I think it's right or wrong.
Right.
It's not like it's what's worked for me, and it is what I want. Yep. If you want to go shopping in the mall instead of opening another business, like, great.
Yeah.
Your happiness is for you. I have no judgment against you. I'll go with you. I just won't try anything on. You know?
Or you might try it on, but you're like, but I'll be putting it back.
Right, I'll put it back on that rack. Is there a clearance rack in here? Because if not, I'm in the wrong store.
Do you have a coupon?
Is there a 10% off here?
No, I love it. And I think it's awesome. And I think it just shows like such a different, mindset of like the discipline part of it. Because like for me, like I'm always trying to leverage my assets to be able to get more. And you probably do that too. But I don't do mine so much in the way of like saving. Like I have a savings because I feel like savings is important. But I would not say I'm as cheap as you. Is that what it was? Cheap?
Yeah.
Did we decide cheap or frugal?
No, we said frugal's the nice one. You're not as frugal as
You're not. I'm not even classified as frugal. What's above that?
I don't know.
I'm above that. Whatever that is, that's me. But anyways, mostly I just like wanted to talk about you and like how you became into the Fellas and like how cool I think it is that like you have diversified into this family business and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in this podcast or not, but Glen is our first family member to be a Fellas partner, and what's really cool for me about it is that I know that you love me and Jeremy and the Fellas like to your core, and that everything that you do is like for us and for the company, that the love is like truly there. And so for me, like having that I don't want to say like unconditional love, because I do feel like unconditional love is like not really a thing, but just like that deep love for us gives you like a sense of like just proud. Like I feel really proud to have like somebody who loves me and loves this company so much that they would want to diversify into it, when I know that it's a lot harder than probably a rental. Rental, you're like, I just need to check monthly or whatever. But this, you're like customer service, you're like Google reviews, you're like services this, giveaways this. And so I know it's like a ton more work and probably, probably quite a bit different than what you have done. But I am like super proud to be able to have like a family member invested in this business. And like you were saying, like I don't come from a background of education, but you do trust me to like lead this company that you've invested in, which I think is really awesome. And yeah, I just feel super grateful to have you.
Well, I just love being a part of it. I really do. It's the best thing ever. So you should be super proud. So a business is something you build from the ground up, literally. This was not here before. There's a reason people call it's your baby, because like what else is there besides an actual baby that like takes this much time, attention, and dedication?
There's like 10 babies.
So there is a lot of pride that goes into it, and for a lot of good reasons, and you should feel super proud. And honestly, I'm just grateful, because it's just like, I already know how many investors and people you guys have knocking on your door, and I just think it's going to blow up. And the fact that, I'm not a barber, you just could have been like, sorry, no, you really don't know anything about cutting hair. You probably shouldn't own one. I was like, oh, please, just let me in, So the fact that I get to come in and have a location where I live, huge benefit to me. It's just grateful. Just love being a part of it.
Well, now you guys know why I love this guy so much and why he is a part of the Fellas. And Glenn, thanks for being a part of Trim Podcast. And make sure to check out his Cedar City location the next time you guys are down that way. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.